now within 50 yards of me, and the light still good enough, as he drew nearer, for me to descry his features. And though I am not a judge of men's faces, there was something in his which turned me cold, as though with a kind of horror. Not that it was an ugly face; nay, rather it seemed a handsome one, so far as mere form and line might go, full of strength and vigour and will and steadfast resolution. From the short black hair above the broad forehead, to the long black beard descending below the curt bold chin, there was not any curve or glimpse of weakness, or of afterthought. Nothing playful, nothing pleasant, nothing with a track of smiles, nothing which a friend could like, and laugh at him for having. And yet he might have been a good man, for I have known very good men so fortified by their own strange ideas of God. I say that he might have seemed a good man, but for the cold and cruel hankering of his steel blue eyes. Now let no one suppose for a minute that I saw all this in a moment, for I am very slow, and take a long time to digest things. Only I like to set down, and have done with it, all the results of my knowledge, though they be not manifold. But what I said to myself just then was no more than this: what a fellow to have Lorna! Having my sense of right so outraged, although of course I would never allow her to go so far as that, I almost longed that he might thrust his head in to look after me. For there I was, with my ash staff clubbed, ready to have at him, and not ill inclined to do so, if only he would come where strength, not firearms, must decide it. However, he suspected nothing of my dangerous neighbourhood, but walked his round like a sentinel, and turned at the brink of the water. Then as he marched back again, along the margin of the stream, he espied my little hoard, covered up with dog leaves. He saw that the leaves were upside down, and this of course drew his attention. I saw him stoop, and lay bare the fish and the eggs set a little way from them, and in my simple heart I thought that now he knew all about me. But to my surprise he seemed well pleased, and his harsh short laughter came to me without echo. "Ha, ha, Charlie boy, fisherman Charlie, have I caught thee setting bait for Lorna? Now I understand thy fishings, and the robbing of Counsellor's hen roost. May I never have good roasting, if I have it not to night, and roast thee, Charlie, afterwards." With this he calmly packed up my fish, and all the best of dear Annie's eggs, and went away chuckling steadfastly, to his home, if one may call it so. But I was so thoroughly grieved and mortified by this most impudent robbery, that I started forth from my rocky screen with the intention of pursuing him, until my better sense arrested me, barely in time to escape his eyes. For I said to myself, that even supposing I could contend unarmed with him, it would be the greatest folly in the world to have my secret access known, and perhaps a fatal barrier placed between Lorna and myself, and I knew not what trouble brought upon her, all for the sake of a few eggs and fishes. It was better to bear this trifling loss, however ignominious and goading to the spirit, than to risk my love and Lorna's welfare, and perhaps be shot into the bargain. And I think that all will agree with me, that I acted for the wisest, in withdrawing to my shelter, though deprived of eggs and fishes. Having waited, as I said, until there was no chance whatever of my love appearing, I hastened homeward very sadly, and the wind of early autumn moaned across the moorland. All the beauty of the harvest, all the gaiety was gone, and the early fall of dusk was like a weight upon me. Nevertheless, I went every evening thenceforward for a fortnight, hoping every time in vain to find my hope and comfort. And meanwhile what perplexed me most was that the signals were replaced, in order as agreed upon, so that Lorna could scarcely be restrained by any rigour. One time I had a narrow chance of being shot and settled with, and it befell me thus. I was waiting very carelessly, being now a little desperate, at the entrance to the glen, instead of watching through my sight hole, as the proper practice was. Suddenly a ball went by me, with a whiz and whistle, passing through my hat, and sweeping it away all folded up. My soft hat fluttered far down the stream, before I had time to go after it, and with the help of both wind and water, was 50 yards gone in a moment. At this I had just enough mind left to shrink back very suddenly, and lurk very still and closely; for I knew what a narrow escape it had been, as I heard the bullet, hard set by the powder, sing mournfully down the chasm, like a drone banished out of the hive. And as I peered through my little cranny, I saw a wreath of smoke still floating where the thickness was of the withy bed; and presently Carver Doone came forth, having stopped to reload his piece perhaps, and ran very swiftly to the entrance to see what he had shot. Sore trouble had I to keep close quarters, from the slipperiness of the stone beneath me, with the water sliding over it. My foe came quite to the verge of the fall, where the river began to comb over, and there he stopped for a minute or two, on the utmost edge of dry land, upon the very spot indeed where I had fallen senseless when I clomb it in my boyhood. I could hear him breathing hard and grunting, as in doubt and discontent, for he stood within a yard of me, and I kept my right fist ready for him, if he should discover me. Then at the foot of the water slide, my black hat suddenly appeared, tossing in white foam, and fluttering like a raven wounded. Now I had doubted which hat to take when I left home that day, till I thought that the black hat became me best, and might seem kinder to Lorna. 'Have I killed thee, old bird, at last?' my enemy cried in triumph. ''Tis the third time I have shot at thee, and thou wast beginning to mock me. No more of thy cursed croaking now, to wake me in the morning. Ha, ha! There are not many who get 3 chances from Carver Doone, and none ever go beyond it.' I laughed within myself at this, as he strode away in his triumph; for was not this his third chance of me, and he no whit the wiser? And then I thought that perhaps the chance might some day be on the other side. For to tell the truth, I was heartily tired of lurking and playing bo peep so long, to which nothing could have reconciled me, except my fear for Lorna. And here I saw was a man of strength fit for me to encounter, such as I had never met, but would be glad to meet with; having found no man of late who needed not my mercy at wrestling or at single stick. And growing more and more uneasy, as I found no Lorna, I would have tried to force the Doone Glen from the upper end, and take my chance of getting back, but for Annie and her prayers. Now that same night I think it was, or at any rate the next one, that I noticed Betty Muxworthy going on most strangely. She made the queerest signs to me, when nobody was looking, and laid her fingers on her lips, and pointed over her shoulder. But I took little heed of her, being in kind of dudgeon, and oppressed with evil luck, believing too that all she wanted was to have some little grumble about some petty grievance. But presently she poked me with the heel of a fire bundle, and passing close to my ear whispered, so that none else could hear her, "Lorna Doone." By these words I was so startled, that I turned round and stared at her; but she pretended not to know it, and began with all her might to scour an empty crock with a besom. "Oh, Betty, let me help you; that work is much too hard for you," I cried with a sudden chivalry, which only won rude answer. "Zeed me a doing of thick every naight last 10 year, Jan, wi'out vending out how hard it wor. But if zo be thee wants to help, carr Peg's bucket for me. Massy, if I ain't forgotten to fade the pegs till now." Favouring me with another wink, to which I now paid the keenest heed, Betty went and fetched the lanthorn from the hook inside the door. Then when she had kindled it, not allowing me any time to ask what she was after, she went outside and pointed to the great bock of wash and riddlings and brown hulkage (for we ground our own corn always), and though she knew that Bill Dadds and Jem Slocum had full work to carry it on a pole, with another to help to sling it, she said to me as quietly as a maiden might ask one to carry a glove, "Jan Ridd, carr thic thing for me." So I carried it for her, without any words, wondering what she was up to next, and whether she had ever heard of being too hard on the willing horse. And when we came to hog pound, she turned upon me suddenly, with the lanthorn she was bearing, and saw that I had the bock by one hand very easily. "Jan Ridd," she said, "there be no other man in England could 'a doed it. Now thee shalt have Larna." While I was wondering how my chance of having Lorna could depend upon my power to carry pig's wash, and how Betty could have any voice in the matter, which seemed